Egyptologists are very lucky in that they work on a civilization which has produced enormous quantities of written records. And from those, of course, we're able to put together a very, very detailed picture of life in ancient Egypt. But the written records are quite formal, and they only tell us certain things. Many aspects of the day-to-day experience of living in ancient Egypt can only be recovered by studying the human remains. The ancient Egyptians had a very strong belief that they would pass into an afterlife. Their lives on earth were quite short, and they imagined that death was something like a transition, like a doorway that you pass through into an eternal life. And that eternal life would be in the realm of the gods. When you reached it, you would become like a god yourself. You would have some of the powers of gods, and you would live eternally. The Egyptians believed that a person consisted of the body and a number of different spirit elements as well. And for the spirits to survive after death, the body had to survive as well. They believed that the spirit and the body had to come back together, had to be reunited after death. And the way for that to happen was to preserve the body by mummification. So it had to be dried, all the perishable parts taken out, wrapped up in a large bundle so that it would survive for eternity. The virtual imaging technology is extremely precise because what you're seeing here is exactly what is underneath the wrappings. There's no interpretation coming in here to distort the images. We are seeing very clear pictures of what is there, and this means that we can study every feature of the body and the objects inside the wrappings as well. This technology is answering a lot of questions for us because we're able now to get better ideas of how old people were when they died by looking at their teeth and bones. We're seeing a lot about the religious aspects of mummification. We can see the amulets, the little charms on the body in their original positions. If the body was unwrapped, those objects would fall out of position and we wouldn't quite understand so clearly what their function was. So it's very important to be able to look inside the wrappings and see everything in its original context. To select the objects for the exhibition, first of all, we try to choose pieces which are very well preserved. They need, of course, to be strong enough to travel, and also we want pieces which will be visually very striking, very instructive for the visitor. We chose the mummy of Nesper-Enub also because he's one of the best preserved of our mummies, and we know something about his life from inscriptions. That meant that when we scanned his mummy, all the information we found could be put into a good historical context. Unfortunately, his wife's mummy is lost. Only the coffins seem to have survived, and they're in a museum in the United States. It may be that the mummy of his wife was discovered, but taken out of the coffins in Egypt, and now, if it survives, we can't identify it. It looks as though the mummy of Nesper-Enub was mummified in a way where some things didn't quite go according to plan. So the bowl that's on his head, we think, was perhaps a mistake by the embalmers. It certainly shouldn't be there because other mummies don't have anything like that. Also, we can't see his heart inside his chest. Maybe they failed to preserve it, or perhaps when they took all of the organs out of his body, the heart was taken out by mistake as well. So sometimes things did not actually go according to plan.